Yeah, but the Gemara says that dreams are semi-prophetic, but most dreams, you only dream what you think about during the day. So if you think about what you think during the day, it's all meaningless. It's all foolishness. And even when you dream a correct dream, a dream that has value, it's always interspersed with nonsense. So you have to be able to decipher through the nonsense what is real and what's not real. And the Gemara says one indication the dream is a real dream, that it's not what somebody thought about. He's dreaming about something so unusual that it's something a person doesn't think about. And if you dream that kind of dream, that means it has an element of truth in it.
What does that mean?
Let's say you dreamt you were in the Himalayas. You never thought about the Himalayas, and you're walking through a cave. This never entered your mind. Or you met a monarch, or whatever. You were in a battle. You never thought about being in a battle. Well, why does that come to mind? So evidently, Hashem put that in your mind. You know, what's his name? There's Rabbeinu Bach. You take a look. Every Parsha has an introduction with a pasuk in Mishlei. That's the way it's authored. It's phenomenal. You could publish a sefer just on the introductions to the Parshas. So on Parshas Vayikra, he speaks about the Korban Olah. You know, the Olah, it says it should be burnt at night. Right? At night you burn the Olah. So he speaks about the whole idea of thoughts. You have thoughts. And he says when a person sleeps at night, the body is dormant. The function of the body is dormant. There are all kinds of forces in the atmosphere. Kochas, forces, positive forces, negative forces. The forces, there's information, even from other stratospheres, even of which exist during the day, because our bodies function. We don't pick up on it, right? Because everything is preoccupied, everything is in movement, is in function. At night, where everything is dormant, the mind or the neshama is able to detect what's going on. So therefore, you're able to get pieces of information. That's what he writes over there. He speaks, and that's the dream. A person dreams at night. Sometimes you pick this up, said, "What are you dreaming of? It's something something you gathered, something that's being circulated, or is it something that you thought about during the day? The nonsense that you thought during the day. That's the question. That's Rabbeinu Bach at the beginning of Parshas Vayikra. Okay.
So it's interesting. You dream a lot more when you're younger. As you get older, you don't dream so much.
Do you know why? It's very simple. Because I'll give you an example. A person's young, takes a 3-hour trip. There are kids in the back. They're climbing. I don't know what the word is. Right? They don't know what to do with themselves. The person gets a little bit older. He goes into his own mind, and it's not such a problem. It's unwind time, as you call it, right? That's why Howard, he goes to Israel, he goes through Russia and through where else did he go through? So he has plenty of time to unwind. He needs that time, unwind time. A person in life, we accumulate so many, our experiences, what we see, what we learn. Our minds on a subconscious level are fully overloaded. So even though consciously we don't think about anything necessarily, but the mind is occupied. So if the mind's occupied, it's okay. A child, the mind is vacant, totally empty, because the child hasn't had experience and hasn't learned anything. So even on a subconscious level, the mind is not being addressed. So the child doesn't know what to do with himself. Climbs the walls. He has to be occupied, and you have to occupy him on a conscious level, because the subconscious is not occupied. One said, if parchment, you have a mistake in the Sefer Torah, now what do? You take a blade and you scrape off the ink. We're talking about a person, calligraphy expert. You scrape off the surface. But the parchment is absorbed with ink. Right? The Mishnah says, what's the difference between a young person studying an old person? One's a near mochuk, one's a near choluk. Right? A blotted piece of paper, but on the surface even it's blotted, but you still can write on the surface. The answer, but there's no absorption. It doesn't absorb, right? So it's not as secure, it's not attached the same way as a near choluk, a piece of paper that was never written on. A piece of paper is never written on, it absorbs deeply into the paper. A person has a mind which is a young mind, On the subconscious level, there's nothing there. So when you study something, it fully absorbs into the mind. Because there's nothing on the subconscious level interfering, while, even though consciously we try to focus, but on another level, simultaneously there are other things going on underneath. Therefore, you're not able to absorb it the same way. But a young person, there's nothing going on the subconscious level. So when you consciously want to absorb something, there's nothing interfering. It's fully, that focus is a full focus, that the mind is fully occupied in whatever you're studying. That's the difference between a cholok, a young person, and an older person. So I'm saying a person studies Torah his whole life. So the mind is always geared to Torah. So whatever you're studying Torah, even the subconscious is occupied with what the conscious is. It's the focus, the same focus. But a person, let's say, throughout his life, he has other things on his mind, and he wants to study Torah. It's two things which they can't coexist. One's is a distraction and a detraction from the other. Then you have what? Then you have that's a cholok. It's a blotted piece of paper. But it's exactly what a blotted piece of paper is versus a piece of paper that was never written on. Is there anything below the surface? That's the difference. Okay, we're going to have to do halacha. No. That doesn't have to. They don't have to have it. Well, there was. Yaakov said. Rashi brings it. When he said, "Your mother will bow," Rashi over there says that was the chaff. That was the chaff. Even though it wasn't really chaff, because it was really Billah. She was the equivalent of the mother. Your mother, he said, this, the stars and the moon. You know, so the sun and the moon.